iPhone 17 versus iPhone 11 speed test. This one has been requested quite a bit. Let's go ahead and see how fast the iPhone 17 compares to your iPhone 11. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and quite a few people have been saying they're going to upgrade their iPhone 11 to the iPhone 17 this year. And I wanted to go ahead and make this video to help you decide or to see how much of an upgrade that's going to be over the 11 in terms of performance. So let's go ahead and begin a boot up test in 3, 2, go. Now, a lot of people have noticed that, year over year, the iPhones are not huge upgrades in terms of performance. But when we take a look at an 11 to an iPhone 17, we are definitely going to look at performance as one of the major areas of upgrade here. It's very clear you would want the better cameras, battery, and design, but the performance is probably one of the things that's really probably lacking on your iPhone 11 at this point. And you can see that there was at least a 4 to 5 second difference there in the boot up, but that's just the boot up. Let's get into the other areas of the phones and see what happens here. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at Face ID here for both phones. So if we go ahead and just look here, you'll see that always on display was available for the iPhone 17, so that would be a big upgrade. When swiping in, you won't see any substantial difference as they do have the same software, so basically the same animation, but it will look a bit smoother here for the iPhone 17 because we are looking at a phone that does have itself a bit more of a smooth ProMotion display, which is something we've been wanting for quite some time. If I go ahead and take a look at the iPhone 11, it goes in fine, but it is a little bit slow looking. So I don't know if you've seen that right there, but it's definitely not quite as snappy looking. Let's go ahead and kind of just swipe through the operating system now here for the iPhone 17. And a lot of people call this kind of like a smaller or a mini version of the iPhone 17 Pro Max because it does have nearly the same performance now, ProMotion, and it's one of the best iPhone base model values in years. And I can confirm that as somebody who's been using the iPhone 17 Pro Max myself, this does feel just like a base version of the same exact thing. So I love this phone for this year's value, especially in this green colorway. It just looks very beautiful. Some people might like the lavender and the mist blue as well. But when we come over here to look at the iPhone 11 here, after all these years on the market, it is kind of astonishing that it's still functioning and it still runs pretty usably. It might not be the fastest thing in the world anymore, but you could actually get by using the iPhone 11. It's not going to be a great experience, but you'll get by. The ProMotion is definitely what makes a difference here. But unlike the iPhone 16, even though in the iPhone 15, maybe even the 14, even though this does have 60 hertz, this phone is also slowed down just by its age. It just feels, even the 60 hertz on here feels slower than 60 hertz on maybe like a 16 or a 15. So this phone kind of just chugs along a little bit slower than I would like. And those differences are kind of pretty obvious, even on general swiping of the home screen. Taking a look here at the control centers, you're going to see what's nice though is that you do get the same exact software. And if we go ahead and do edit, you can still actually customize the icons just fine. They actually work okay here on the iPhone 11 as well. So you can still kind of play around with the new software, but it just doesn't run anywhere near as efficiently as it does on the iPhone 15. Let's get into the app test now. So you can see we're on iOS 26.0.1 for both phones, so that's the same. The clock speed is substantially different, as is the bezels and the notch versus Dynamic Island, which is so staring me in the face right now. But you can see 2.66 gigahertz clock speed on that A13 Bionic, A19 chip at 4.25 gigahertz. Now this also doubles the RAM from 3.76 gigabytes to, well, it's actually 4 to 8 gigabytes of RAM here on the iPhone 17. So you're doubling your RAM, you're doubling your processor performance, you're doubling up on your camera, well, actually quadrupling, I believe, on that 12 megapixel to 48 megapixel. So this is a huge upgrade for iPhone 11 users. Let's go ahead and see how these apps launch. All right, so here we are at the app test. Everything is closed out for both phones. Let's go into calendar, and you've seen right off the gate the iPhone 11, that was just not a pretty looking animation. We'll go into calculator, and there goes the iPhone 17. And I don't want this video to come across like, well, duh, Nick, the iPhone 11, of course, in a few years, I could tell you the same thing about the 17. No, actually, I think the iPhone 11 is just simply slower because it has less RAM and a lower clock speed CPU. As time goes on, yes, older phones will always feel older. But at the same time, 8 gigabytes of RAM has always been, like in computer land, a pretty great area or base level of RAM. Back when these phones came out, 4 gigabytes of RAM, we already knew in the future it was going to be maybe an issue. Let's swipe over here. We'll go into weather. It's the same thing with like laptops. If you look at laptops and computers, that was faster on the left. The computers that are older, if they had like 8 to 12 gigabytes of RAM, they still run okay comparatively to like a 4 gig of RAM product, which is pretty slow. Let's swipe up out of here. That's mostly because the memory gets used up easier. That was faster on the left, and Grok. And while these apps seem to be functioning fine, you're going to see in the RAM management department, as we start to pop more things open, the iPhone 11 starts to have some issues. We'll go over here, and then when we swipe into, we'll go into consumer electronics, and we scroll. No major issues. Again, I think for a singular app person, somebody who's just in one app at a time, and they have some patience with their day-to-day phone use, the 11 still functions. But even regular users, people who are just going to work, popping on their phone, trying to put it on CarPlay, using it throughout the day, they're gonna notice the upgrades here in the iPhone 17 substantially. They're gonna be like, my phone's way better now. So let's go ahead and head into Amazon now here for both products, and you can see that was faster for the iPhone 17. And we'll go into Dead Trigger 2. Now here in the gaming department, this is where the differences should be kind of substantial, well, at least substantially noticeable. We'll hit play here, and we'll see what happens, and that's going to go first to the left. We could skip the stage here. We're in a different mission area. But it wasn't by too much, because this game has been out since the 11 was out already. It was going to Subway Surfers. Even a basic game like this, though, launched way faster on the iPhone 17. And that difference, it should be right in your face right there. It should be totally noticeable. Let's go into RTS, or Race the Sun, and we'll see what happens here. Another casual daily game. And you could see as we race the sun here, we're still waiting for the iPhone 11. I don't know what it's doing. It went black over there. There it is. So, yep, that definitely took longer for the iPhone 11. Let's go into the Free Fire. And you see, of course, you expected it in the gaming row, but in this particular comparison, this is super noticeable. Again, I'm not trying to sound like Captain Obvious, but I am kind of like excited for those of you who are going to be upgrading, because this difference is clearly obvious. So if you are going to be upgrading, you're going to be pretty happy here overall. Like if you held out this long though, you're going to feel this upgrade, unlike people who had like a 14, 15. They're going to feel the upgrade as well, but not quite as much as you're going to feel it here from the 11. Now, the 11 looks stuck here on Free Fire, so I think we're going to just go ahead and close this out. It did get stuck there on Free Fire, and I want to leave that in the video because I wanted to showcase what does tend to occur on the 11 occasionally now. Just a product of being an older phone. Now, I do believe the iPhone 12 is also rather slow at this point, but not quite as slow as the 11. The 10R is probably even more behind this one over here. And you can see the iPhone 17 substantially faster there to load that game. And there goes the iPhone 11. Again, the iPhone 11 will play these things just fine. It does tend to warm up a bit though on the glass back for this phone. So if you are looking for really good thermals, this ain't it. The iPhone 17 under heavier use gets a little warmer than the 17 Pros as well though, but nothing like any of the older phones just because they're a bit less optimized. Also, the batteries could be aged, but even if you get a new battery, it's still going to get warm because it's not as efficient. In addition, it does have a fully glass back. Let's go into 3D Mark, and you can see that is faster on the left. And we'll go to Speed Test Net, and faster on the left by a couple of seconds. And InShot, faster on the left by a couple of seconds. And iMovie, faster on the left by a few seconds. We'll go into Geekbench 6. This should be faster here as it is optimized for older phones. But only one that won was Geekbench just because they didn't update it yet for the iPhone 17. To wrap it up here, I will say that even casual apps are noticeably faster. Running along the software is faster, but app launches mostly comes down to if you're doing a lot of things throughout your day, I would say the 17 is even good enough for power users. This phone over here is very, very casual, basic user, one app at a time, maybe a couple at a time. But you start opening a few applications running throughout your day, things are going to reload. They're going to get a little bit twitchy if you have games open in the background or anything like that. But anything more than basic usage of iPhone, I think the iPhone 11 is kind of starting to show its age quite a bit, as you've seen here. And definitely if you do like to play games or you like to run the latest software, your 17 is going to be a substantial upgrade. Let's take a look at the RAM department now. All right, so hopping back between these applications, you do see that the iPhone 17 just looks like a piece of butter gliding along. It's just buttery smooth here. To relaunch these applications, animations look beautiful. I do have to say some of the Android competitors are getting quite smooth in this department as well. But we're talking about 17 today. And if you have the older iPhone, you come to this, that ProMotion makes all the difference, let me tell you. Let's go ahead and take a look at the iPhone 11 now. I'm curious to see how this aging iPhone does perform here in this department. I do have a sneaking suspicion that the games might lock this up or start to reload. Free Fire never made it there. Now as I launch it there, it's starting to make it. There we go. But as we swipe out of here, you see a little bit of delay on my swipe. It wasn't registering. I think that's because it was loading. Race the Sun is a relaunch. Subway Surfer. So you can see we only got into about 6 applications before this phone started reloading, and here we go. So this is what I'm talking about. Again, this wouldn't occur as much on basic applications, but still, like, you seen that lag coming in and out? That is super noticeable. Let's go over here to news. And honestly, at this point, I would probably only use the 11 for regular apps. I would only download casual games. I wouldn't play anything beyond like casual stuff, as it is playable, but it would probably slow my phone down, eat up too much storage, and it makes it a little bit warmer. So the 11 did reload quite a few apps, but again, I'm still, even though I'm saying these things like about the 11 that are not super amazing, I still am impressed that the 11 at this age from 2019 still has the latest software and can still run iOS. That's what I'm impressed by. I'm not saying I'm super blown away by performance, but the fact that it can still do that is impressive. Because look at other phones from 2019. They're basically featherweights or paperweights at this point. At least you could still use this phone. That's pretty neat. Let's go ahead and take a look at the benchmarks now. So here is the iPhone 17, 3600 on the single core and 9071 on the multi-core score. So let's go ahead and see the results now for the iPhone. It was 1766. So that is actually double, like 50% better performance on the iPhone 17. And then on the multi-core, it's nearly 3 times better. So it's a huge jump in multi-core and single core. But again, you see those bezels, they're pretty noticeable as well. There's a lot of other areas of this phone that just look so much different now. Much larger 48 megapixel dual cameras. You do have just a much different, newer design, USB-C. There are a ton of major changes that come outside of performance. Let's take a look at 3D Mark though. And here are final Wildlife Extreme scores. And I think these paint the picture as to why I said what I said about I wouldn't really play any substantial games on here. 10.8 FPS. Again, it will play them, but not the way I want them to be played. This score is better than 88% of devices on the market. The iPhone 11 shockingly can still do better than 30% of devices out there, but that means it's being beat by more than 70% of devices you can buy today. That is substantial. So it's basically like a nearly a 70% improvement to come to over here to the iPhone 17. Well, you could say like a 58 compared to this score, but everything about this phone is just an upgrade over the iPhone 11. It's actually an upgrade over the iPhone 12 and 13 as well. But by this one, if you held out this long, you're going to feel it even more than they felt it. So this is really, really neat. The base model this year, it's just been pretty fantastic, I would say, overall. Let's go ahead and take a look at one of my last things I like to do, which is go ahead and take a camera. Just take a photo. We'll take the camera and see what happens here, like if there's any lag on the shutter or just launching the camera. And you can see not really any lag, but substantially quicker to open the iPhone 17. And while no major issues on the shutter key, I do think the launching speed, we're talking about speed here, is actually quicker for the 17 you just seen there, but also with the camera control buttons that became available on the 16s, they make it easier to whip this out and get that photo fast, just like that. So if this phone is in your pocket, you could just whip it out really quickly like that. Once you get that muscle memory of that camera control button, it is a game changer. I've actually made sure to not miss many shots on multiple occasions since 16 models launched with that camera control. So that's another upgrade. So let's wrap it up here. Final verdict. You've seen here in reality, the 11, while it can run basic apps, can run the latest version, it definitely takes a hit on battery for sure in this department due to the latest software. But outside of just like the obvious camera upgrades, design changes, the performance is substantially better in terms of ProMotion, making the whole phone experience feel smoother. But also, graphically speaking, in the GPU, it's so much more powerful, but CPU as well. In reality, what it looks like to you is that all your games run much more smoothly, and your day-to-day applications can be launched multiple ones at a time, keeping you fluid and efficient while not slowing you down whatsoever. So performance-wise, it's pretty apparent. This is a great one. So thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have any more questions, comments, concerns. I know there's other areas besides performance you might want to know about upgrading from your 11. Let's talk about it down below. I'll catch you on the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.